Hey everyone, it's Jennifer and welcome back to my favorite crafty things. Today I'm focusing on coloring, so say you have a stamped image and you want to add some coloring to it. I'm going to share 4 of my favorite products, Copic markers and Prismacolor colored pencils, Inktense pencils, and distress markers. So in this video I'm just going to give you a basic comparison of the 4 and why I like certain ones more than others and when certain ones are better to use than others. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Copic markers. Copic markers are super popular right now. They're expensive, however, they give incredible results. It's what real artists and illustrators use, so you know you're going to get great results with them. Now you need to use a certain ink and a certain paper to make sure that they don't bleed. I use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink on Nina White cardstock. I use Nina White for almost everything anyways. And you just go ahead and stamp that. Now I use the Copic markers called Sketch. That's what you see here. You can see the color numbers on the top. It's a letter and number. One side has a brush tip and one side has that blunt tip. Now I always use the brush tip, and this is super durable, so your kids can play with these and you don't have to worry about them getting ruined at all. Now I'm not going to go into a big talk about comparing how you figure out what colors to use together or the science behind the letters and numbers for each color. There's lots of videos about that. What I do is I just grab any 2 markers that I want to, and you can make them blend with enough work. So I just picked R24 and R29. They're just 2 red colors, a lighter and a darker. What I do is I go down with the lighter color and color it heavily onto the paper. You'll see the paper will not pill. That's one of the great things about these alcohol-based markers. I did a heavy layer of the light red. Now I'm going in with the darker red and just adding some into the areas where I want shading. Now I'm coloring outside the lines because I'm going to go ahead and cut this out when I'm done. Now after I did the light and then some of the dark, I'm going back with the light again, and you can see how it just starts to blend when I go over the areas where I want them to blend. You could use 3 colors here, like R24, R27, and R29, but I find really if you just grab 2 that are close, with enough going back and forth between both, you can make them blend just fine. And there are an awful lot of techniques that you can do with these markers, where you can pick some up off, an acrylic block. I mean, there are a crazy amount of things you can do with them, so I encourage you to look at other videos. But I just wanted to show you the results that you can get with this. So this will give you a nice solid image. You won't get any streak lines. It'll be perfectly smooth when you're done with it. So you can see there. Now there is the colorless blender, which is kind of a weird name for it because it actually doesn't blend like you would think. It actually, I like to say, it erases ink. So look at this. You can put little dots on here. It just removes the color, kind of pushes it aside. So you can make little stripes. You can do fun techniques with this. Also, if you go outside of the lines, a little bit less than I did intentionally here, you can kind of push the color back into the lines, kind of fix any mistakes. Again, there are a lot of things that you can do with these alcohol-based markers. I really enjoy them, and I've done a lot of videos with them, and I know a lot of other people have too. But if you want a perfectly smooth colored image, Copic markers is probably the best way for you to go. If you're going to invest in a few, be sure to get a couple within the same color family so that you can do some blending. Now the next product that I wanted to talk to you about is the Prismacolor colored pencils. I have to say this is probably what I reach for the most when I want a good solid image and just want to have some fun coloring, because I find that I can control it a little bit more. So you can use any black ink with this. I like to use the Hero Arts black dye ink because it won't smudge or bleed, and I'm just using regular white cardstock and also some Crafty cardstock too. These are both Nina cardstocks. Now the Prismacolor colored pencils go on like butter. They are as smooth as can be, nice and thick, and you can really put this color on heavily. These Prismacolor colored pencils are by far much better than any other colored pencils out there because it is a soft pencil, which allows for it to blend even better and go on super smooth. So you'll see I have 2 completely different colors here. I have hot pink and like a bright yellow, and you can see that if I put it on heavy enough and overlap in the middle, that you can get it to blend quite easily. There are also a lot of tools out there for blending, like a blender pen or blender pencil. You can even use a product called Gamsol to help blend it. But I found if you just go on really heavy with the color and go back and forth a few times, you can get really smooth, solid, vibrant results. And I found that I've been reaching for these colored pencils more than I have been for my Copic markers because the results are a little more predictable for me. I can control them a little bit better. And I'm also much better at staying inside the lines with them. Now another thing that some people do is they'll go and if they want to kind of blend and soften some colors together, they can sometimes go in with the white colored pencil that comes in many of the sets and blend over it, and you'll see that kind of blends those colors together. It forces them to blend together. There are many different variety packs of Prismacolors. I of course go for the big one because I use them a lot, but I encourage you to look at the different sizes and see what might be best for you. Another thing that's great about the Prismacolored colored pencils is you can go on dark colored cardstock. So like here, this Craft, you could even go darker than this if you wanted to. You can put enough of this color on that it becomes opaque and you can't see through it. You can get that bright, vibrant color on the dark colored cardstock. Now if you see with a Copic marker, it kind of blends in. It's a nice look, but it's not that vibrant color that you can get with those colored pencils. That is one of the biggest reasons I prefer the Prismacolored pencils over Copic markers. Now the next two products I want to show you involve a little bit of water so you can get watercolor results. The first are Inktense pencils. Now these are a very unique pencil. I've never seen anything like it, which is what makes it fun. And with this I like to use watercolor paper. I use the Tim Holtz Distress watercolor paper. Any watercolor paper will work. And the Hero Arts black dye ink because this will not bleed with water. You could use other black inks if you'd like to. Now I'm going to use water with these. These are a fun color pencil that are very unique because they're very thick, unlike other watercolor pencils, so it almost becomes like a paint or kind of a ink when it becomes wet. So you can see I'm putting down very little color here, just quick scribbling, but when I add water to it, it quickly becomes very, very thick color, very vibrant, so you can get some really dark images. I barely put any color down and look how bright this becomes. I find these easier to use than other watercolor pencils, and you could also use them as regular colored pencils if you want without the water. Another way that you can use them is to just use a wet brush and touch the tip of the pencil to pick up the color, and this is a great way to get a lighter color or control the amount of color you're adding. So with these you can just layer on how much ink you want on here or how much paint you want with the Inktense pencils. So these I would prefer over any other type of watercolor pencil because of the vibrancy that you get. And there are several different multi-packs of these Inktense pencils, and you can mix colors together very easily to get whatever color you would like. Now the next product I wanted to show you is Distress Marker. I love the Distress Markers, and the results that you can get with Distress Markers are just amazing. They're by Tim Holtz, and they're supposed to go along with the Distress ink line. But I find that I use them without the inks all the time. There is a brush tip and a fine tip. These tips are a little more delicate than the Copic, so you want to be kind of careful with them. I'm using watercolor paper and a permanent black ink. And look how quickly I'm just applying some color, quick and messy here. Then I'm just going to take some water and brush it over, and you'll see you get this gorgeous watercolor look very quickly. It just blends beautifully. Now if you want it to look real watercolory, you can add lots of water. If you want it to be more solid, you can use less water. Here I added some more water, and look how it quickly becomes this beautiful watercolor look. Now if you want to, you can heat set it to kind of make it dry quicker, and there you can see the final results you get with it. Now there are many ways you can use these markers, and they react really interesting with water, just like the ink pads. So I encourage you to check out videos using them because there's a lot that you can do with them. Here I'm just putting a little color down to show that you can get a lighter look also. So I put a little bit of green and a little bit of blue and just let them kind of blend on their own with the water. Quick and easy to do. I think that this is probably the product that I have the most fun adding color with. I've always wanted to be a watercolor artist and I've never been able to do it, but with Distress Markers I can totally do it. Another advantage of Distress Markers over any kind of watercolor pencil or watercolor marker is that when you scribble it down and add water over it, you don't have to worry about the scribble lines showing up. They will just completely disappear as the ink blends. I highly recommend using these with watercolor paper because you get much better results. And I think the texture of the watercolor paper really adds to that watercolor artistic feel. Now one of my favorite things that I can do with Distress Markers that I haven't been able to do with any of the other products is a soft kind of sky background. I just draw a quick line with any of the blue color Distress Markers right along the edge of whatever I've stamped, and then just add water and pull the color out, and you can see quickly you can get this really soft sky look. You can go more intense if you want to. And unlike the other products that I talked about today, you can color right onto the rubber of a stamp with Distress Markers, mist it and stamp it for a stamped watercolor look. So there's a quick comparison of the 4 things that I like to use most often to color my stamped images. Again, be sure to check out more videos for more in-depth information. If you're interested in any of the products I talked about, you can see them below on the YouTube description. Also, be sure to go to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com for much more information. This video is just one of many videos that I'm doing on my favorite crafty things, so be sure to check out my blog for posts about them and also my YouTube videos. Thanks for watching.